surviving the pandemic, surviving the economic downturn, surviving tragedies, we stand together with solidarity, perseverance, and resilience to fight back by sharing knowledge, learning, and networking together with our partners and friends in more than 50 countries. Advisors offer you over 20 panels and webinars.
Talk a little bit more about project management strategy and how you can bridge this gap.
Around the challenges in strategy implementation in the new norm.
Advisor strategy implementation panel.
The panel on agility as a key ingredient for the future of work.
As a part of the Advisors Council on Agility, the core ingredient of future work.
Yeah, panelists in the agility, the core ingredient of the future of work panel with advisors.
Why the planning discipline is so important to the sales process.
Transformation, project management skills, and imperative to changing leadership in the knowledge age.
We've been hearing so much lately about the new normal, the big reset, and so on.
Portfolio, program, and project offices, a P3O for post-pandemic recovery of projects.
To transform project management execution to basic plus.
Collaborating with advisors on a presentation entitled Show Me the Benefits.
The ingredients of successful digitalization projects. So please join me.
Of project management in Russia. See ya.
Advisors webinar titled The Art of Negotiation. See you then.
Project interface management, whether it's an IT infrastructure project or an urban development.
Hello, I'm Richard Farrow, the CEO of the APM Group Limited. I've spent a lifetime in project management.
Asset digitization and use cases within operating industrial facilities for digital data.
Governance 3.0, blind spots that boards face.
Healthcare disruption and project management in the project economy of the COVID-19 era.
I would like to thank advisors for giving me this opportunity to talk about KPI, performance management.
The value that we can add via a PMO, how to show the value that a PMO can give.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Advisors Webinars Surviving the Pandemic. I always say I'm happy to be back with our network and with our partners. This time it's special. It's special for two reasons. The first reason is that we had to stop last week, delay it until this week, because of the huge tragedy we faced in Lebanon, for the injured, for those who lost their homes. And I would like to personally thank, on my behalf, my team, advisors, and even all Lebanese, all the leaders, the countries, all the professionals, the friends, the colleagues, the people who showed great compassion, the ones who stood next to us, whether it is with your prayers, your good words. We received hundreds, maybe thousands of calls and messages. And a good thing out of this, you don't feel left alone. You feel you have brothers maybe you did not meet. Perhaps this is one positive thing of the pandemic. But we stand up with solidarity, with perseverance, and we go on. So this is the second reason, which is I'm happy today to host three of the great thought leaderships in our times to speak about strategy implementation challenges in the new normal. So allow me first of all to welcome you all again and welcome my esteemed guests. If you can kindly, Ricardo, Antonio, and Ibraheem, turn on your cameras. Good evening. I'm gonna start with Dr. Ricardo. You are welcome. I'm happy you joined us tonight. Antonio, my friend, always happy. I want you with us every week if we can. Okay. Welcome again. And Dr. Ibraheem Sheerah, my friend, also welcome again. So, first of all, I would like to start by introducing our esteemed speakers, although none of you needs introduction. People know you already, okay? But let us start by a quick introduction. Then we're gonna speak about topic today, start the discussions. And in 1 hour from now, we will take questions and answers. And there will be an additional speaker who will join us from UAE after we finish our discussion during the Q&A. So, Dr. Ricardo, everybody knows you. My daughter, she's studying CAP-M now, and she sees your video, but this is not who you are, okay? You've been one of the previous PMI chairs. You are a director at PMI, and you've been also an ex-chair for the UN project management and infrastructure, I believe. You are a much followed thought leader from Brazil. We are happy to have you tonight with us. Would you like to say something about also introducing yourself? Maybe you need to turn your audio on. Yes.
Dr. Saadi, Dr. Ibraheem, and my dear friend Antonio, it's really an honor for me to be here. But I just want to show my sympathy for the people in Lebanon. So, as a Brazilian, we know that Lebanon and Brazil have an extremely strong connection. So, my thoughts and praise for everybody in Lebanon. And I'm very happy to contribute here with the discussion on how we can move strategy in this such a challenging time we're facing today. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much for your nice words. Now, our friend Antonio, okay? I have to introduce you again. I know everybody knows you, especially within our channel, but we always have new people coming in. So Antonio Neito Rodreguez, also an ex-PMI chair, one of the world's Thinkers 50, director in the PMO, strategic PMO at GSK, a thought leadership, an author also, Dr. Ricardo, an author. And right now, we are very proud of you, our community, because you are the first of us to be selected by Harvard Business Review to write the book on project management, and we are all looking forward towards that. Would you like to add anything, Antonio?
It's hard not to repeat what Ricardo said. First thoughts for the Lebanese friends, family. There's very few countries as beautiful as Lebanon, and the people are always positive despite all the tragedies, and it was tough times already, and now this one last week. So I just I just want to send positive thoughts, and hopefully this is a tipping point for making great again Lebanon, and anything we can do to support will be great. And I'm so happy here to be with Ricardo, one of my closest friends, and I admire all the work that Ricardo is doing all the time, has been an example for me. So Ricardo, thank you for being here with me. And with Saadi, you know, we share the same thinking and passion for sharing knowledge and making things better and making better leaders. So great to be here. And Ibraheem, Doctor, it's a pleasure to see you back again. I'm sure we'll have a very interesting debate tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Welcome again. And thank you for your wishes for Lebanon. I hope they become true. Dr. Ibraheem Sheerah. Dr. Sheerah, he has 3 masters and a PhD, but he also has been a program director in the area of security defense, then in the public-private partnership. Right now, he's director at the Quality of Life program within Vision 2030. But at the same time, other than being a consultant, a director, a thought leader, you did something amazing by getting all these certifications from MIT, I believe. How many are they? 10? We cannot hear you.
18.
18. Oh my God, mashallah. Okay. So, Dr. Sheerah, you are welcome. Would you like to say anything before we start?
First of all,
maybe the connection, something with the connection. Can you hear Dr. Sheerah, or is it just me? No, his connection is off. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So now, Dr. Ibraheem, I think there is a problem with your connection.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Okay. First of all, I want to repeat what just been said about Lebanese people and Lebanon. Our feelings and our hearts, our thoughts goes out to the families, the loved ones who've been lost in this tragedy and this disaster. And we all stand for solidity for the Lebanese people. And I think words, we do not have enough words in vocabulary to say what we want to say as a feelings, because those are our brothers and sisters back in Lebanon, and we are standing beside them to overcome this issue together, and we will help them with whatever we can. As for my bio, I think I have, alhamdulillah, earned a lot of certificates in project management and in business and strategy and many things. I had the honor to participate in many sessions that Antonio have conducted in the project economy, and I engaged with many other places. I have certificate from INSEAD, from Harvard, from MIT, from all over. And I've done a lot of projects. I established many organizations, startup organizations, and also semi-government organizations. And I end up being the chief executive of business at the Quality of Life program, which is one of the Vision 2030 programs. I'm honored to be here, and I'm so excited to exchange knowledge among us and to learn more from my colleagues here at the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sheerah, for your feelings. Okay, thank you for everybody, all our brothers in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, in Egypt, in Algeria, Tunis, Turkey, France, all the places. Of course, Spain, Belgium, Brazil, all the places in the world that have been backing us up. Thank you very much. So, having said that, let us start. Today we're gonna speak about 4 topics within the challenges, and each one of us would give his contribution. At any time, please feel free. Okay, I'm not a police. Okay, I'm here to learn from you. Okay, and to enjoy myself. Of course, we will take all questions and answers after we finish the 4 rounds. So we start with the first one, challenge number 1. What are the biggest pains today and risks tomorrow for realizing strategies in the new norm? So who would like to start, please? Ricardo, would you like to start?
Yeah, no, I can start. Now, in my thinking, I think that the biggest pain we are facing today is uncertainty, because we are now starting, we are changing a paradigm of thinking. Because let me give you an example. Early this year in January, I was at the World Economic Forum, where I would say business leaders were discussing. And people were talking about climate change, geopolitics. But I didn't hear anything clearly on a potential pandemic. And 60 days later, not 5 years later, I'm talking about 60 days later, the world just shut down in such an unpredictable way. Even today, we are all at the same page. We don't know exactly how things will evolve in the next 2 or 3 months. So we have to shift our perception that strategy is something that you plan, then you do, then you check. It's not that anymore. It's an evolving situation, because you need to basically reinvent and understand and test your ideas at every single day. So I think that the biggest pain today that most organizations and governments are facing is this uncertainty, is this lack of control of how the situation will be in a very short run. And at the same time, seeing the market landscape changing at a lightning speed. So I'm talking about traditional business that were completely disrupted, retail that was facing challenges already. And now, every single day, we see organizations filing for bankruptcy protection in the US. So it's a very unpredictable environment for me. And I think this is the biggest pain for governments and organizations today.
Okay, I think this is it. Okay, because I'll tell you, we started reviewing our strategy in the beginning of the year. Then we are reviewing our strategy every month, then now maybe every week. Okay, and I think we need to bring agile to strategy making, perhaps. Okay, yeah. So, Antonio.
Maybe from a different angle, but for sure agreeing with the comments from Ricardo, is the uncertainty, I'm afraid, might lead to a lot of layoffs. Now they're temporary layoffs, and this might lead to a massive amount of unemployment, which will have it's all a negative circle. It gets worse and worse. So I think if leaders are listening, I think one of the most important things for me to survive through this uncertainty is people and keeping a right team, and maybe going down everybody with their salaries 10-20% to keep the team. These movements, although painful and risky, I think in the short term will be difficult, but in the midterm, those companies will be, I think, the ones that survive. When you keep your team, when you keep the talent, when you keep them motivated. If you start firing people, I think that's going to just get very negative, and you will not get the engagement. So I think it's tough to keep your team and your employees, or most of them. But the key of the future are the people, their innovation, their ideas, their commitment, the ability to reinvent themselves. So if leaders have one thing to do, I think is keeping the team through these difficult times.
Yeah, very interesting point indeed. Especially when the economy becomes bad or worsens, then each team member you lay off or lay out, he becomes an added problem to the economy. Mm-hmm. And there is the thing of his own family. So we're sort of doing some discount on higher salaries, we can utilize these to keep the other team members. Because usually, I don't know when the up will come, but after each down, there is an up somewhere, sometime, hopefully not very far. And we need our people to be able to catch up the next uprise. Dr. Sheerah, now when I speak to you, I know you're not a bunch of certificates, okay? All these put aside, you are an excellent practitioner. This is what I know, okay? You are a doer, and I've seen you in action. So your presence with us helps a lot, because one of the more advanced visions in the region is the Vision 2030 of Saudi Arabia, and also Vision of UAE. So you are the spokesperson of this vision. And like everybody else, they might have had a need to review certain things. So what's the biggest pain from your own perspective on this?
I think the biggest problem is that we always anticipated good things to happen, not bad things to happen. Basically, we plan for the best, not plan for the worst. And we are not taking risk management seriously. I think always also, regardless if your strategy is resilient enough to adapt tough times, you're always not ready to shift your way of your operating model to adapt the new norm or the new things that's happening, to minimize the loss or reduce all the issues that might happen in the future. I think also the people, just second what Dr. Antonio just said, that the people who just, the people is the heart of the organization. The institutional capacity and capability is something important that you need to capitalize on, not to let them go easily, because what if this pandemic just get over, or whatever you have problems, you just finished. So you need to make sure that you're ready to steer your boat and move forward with your strategy. With whom? With nobody? With new people that you're going to hire? This is nonsense. You need to utilize whatever resources you have to act to whatever crisis you are facing, to steer your boat toward the right direction with the capabilities and capacity. That would take us to the decision-making process. That would take us to the scenario analysis that you need to put in place. That would take you to also the alignment and agility we just talked about, that people need in tough times, or always in normal times. You need always to remind yourself, what if things goes wrong? You need to be prepared. Being prepared is not a word. Being prepared is like when you do a drill to fight a fire that might occur in your organization. It's the same thing. What if something happened while you are executing your strategy? You need your people, you need your resources, and you need to calm down and take a deep breath. You do not have to panic. You need to weigh everything in a very good way, and you need to consult people whom having some issues in different countries to learn from them and keep moving forward. Because otherwise, you would never do anything but hurting your organization. So, ensuring that you have the right decision-making process, ensuring that you are always really planned for the tough times, and always try to keep your resources and try to manage them well to overcome any of the hassles and any of the obstacles you might face in the future. In Vision 2030 initiatives, we always do something like this. So we have to adapt, and we have to meet, we have to form teams, and we have to align with the decision maker to make another decision that would make us move forward, not go backward, because we invested a lot of money. So we don't want to throw out or waste all this money just because a certain disaster, a certain issue that comes in place. We were trained to overcome these issues. We were trained to do mitigation plans. We were trained to manage those risks and manage those resources. If those certificates we are gaining was just taken for decoration, then there is no use of learning or exchanging knowledge with other countries, with other organizations. Learning means gaining the knowledge and reflect them into your organization to save your organization, to help it to move forward in the timeline you set forth in the beginning, and you promise people to deliver. In any country's national strategy, you are promising who? You're promising the public. You're promising the people that you're going to take this whole thing and you move ahead with certain results and outcomes and value. Don't let them lose trust and lose faith in you. You need always, as a leader, to generate faith, to generate trust among the public and among your stakeholders that you still can do it no matter what, with whatever resources you have and with the people, like Antonio just said, you have, because those are the real assets.
So it seems like, Ricardo, against uncertainty, Dr. Sheerah has some sort of insisting, yes, we can do it. We should not panic. Okay, have a plan and redo our plan, rethink our plan, utilize all the power we had from before. What do you think about this point?
Yeah, I think first the two comments were just brilliant, and I want to add one thing, because we are facing, of course, layoff, uncertainty, and we are really looking forward to have the leadership. So for me, also, leadership has never been tested up to the level they are being tested today. Because the problem is not in one organization. The problem is not in an area. The problem is not in a country. We have a global issue, and we are seeing this every single day. So if you are a CEO of a company, you need to manage the company, but at the same time, you have all this ecosystem of dependency. As you said, when people lose jobs, it doesn't mean that you are free of the problem because you did a layoff. On the top of all the panic you will have to hire and train, you create a systemic problem that deepens dramatically the situation today. So, and I think that today, also, I would say, going back to the challenge number one of the biggest risks we face today is that we need to make sure that we have, I would say, the right decision-making and the right leadership, because, it's such a big problem that no one can solve this alone, or no company can solve this alone. So I think this is an absolutely critical issue.
Testing the leadership. Okay. So, Antonio, testing the leadership. How do you test the leadership of the leaders in this situation?
Yeah, I think that's a great comment. It's I think agree with Ricardo. It's since I think the Second World War that leaders have not been challenged as deeply, as severely as now, and it's not just one company, it's the entire world. So I think the comment is great and spot on. How do you test leaders? I think this is a big challenge. It's the ability to, for me, a company today should be able to survive, but at the same time, you need to reinvent yourself. So it's something that you used to do in sequential phases, but today you need to think about the projects that will keep the company alive, revenues, clients, and I'm sure we all have little businesses as well. So how can we keep generating some revenues to keep the team and ourselves? Second, reinventing ourselves at the same time. What are the projects that will keep our company in the mid and long term? So I think a good test for a leader would be, what are your plans? Tell us what's your vision for the short and mid-term, and how are you going to survive this crisis with nobody knows when is the end. That's the other thing. We might know when the vaccine will be invented, but that will take maybe 6, 9 months, 12 months to be available for everybody. Second, the economic crisis, nobody really knows. Today they announced UK figures, about 20% dip. And this is just the beginning. So I think people, leaders need to be thinking short-term, mid-term, long-term at the same time. They need to make decisions much faster than what they used in the past. So leaders that don't decide, leaders that don't have a clarity on what to do. This is a plane. Imagine the plane that landed in the Hudson River. That's what we feel like now. We need people who have that courage and that agility to decide, well, according to all these variables, the best chance for us is to land in the river. And we need to find our own rivers and then transform at the same time from a plane to space shuttle or whatever. So I think that's where like the testing would come. And it's a great point. I love the comment, Ricardo. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. Racing horses, they blind their eyes so that they are not distracted with the ones next to them. For us, we are a boutique company, and we succeeded in establishing this channel and other things as well during the pandemic. And the secret is very simple. I and my team stopped watching the news. In the beginning, we used to spend our time. We need to learn because, as you said, Ricardo, Dr. Ricardo, lots of ambiguity. So you go and see the news. So now you are much more lost. And now you panic. Okay, Dr. Sheerah, you said about panicking. And now, Antonio, you see all the tragedies around and you cannot think. And perhaps the most important thing for anybody, okay, is to be able to calm down and to think by removing the noise, removing the distraction. Don't focus on what you cannot control. Focus on what you might be able to do a good impact on. So we stopped losing time on these things and panicking and trying to in every situation to think, what can we do? The 80-20, look at the 20, maybe in the 20, another 80-20, until we locate even a tiny thing that will help us go on forward. So interesting. Now the second challenge, our guest from UAE, Sultan, joined us. Welcome. Can you use your camera, please?
Yes. Can you?
Good evening. How are you? Yes. Welcome.
Good evening. I did not want. I was there as a guest until Mustafa sent me an invitation to join as a participator. I did not want to join that fast, though, even though I had the invitation for the past 50 minutes, because I was enjoying the different mindset and different aspect everyone is bringing to the table. And I think two of you are going to hate me and two of you are going to love me by the end of this discussion, because I have some answers. I have about 4 pages worth of notes written down, but I will let you continue the discussion. And I have certain questions.
Can you kindly, just for our speakers and our guests, introduce yourself? This is not the first time you participate with us. Yes.
Okay, so my name is Sultan Alshaali. I was in the private sector for 15 years before I was recruited by the Prime Minister office in Dubai to create the first government accelerators in the world. We all know about the private accelerators, but this was created specifically to deal with the mindset of the government. Of course, it also included stakeholders integration, and it touches a lot on the agility. And I've been, thankfully, we had 42 teams through multiple cohorts. All of them exceeded expectations. And the trick is we utilize available resources, available people, and we reduce the amount of time to deliver a project. And that was the biggest challenge for any government entity, because it's not business as usual as they used to. So the other big question is, how do you move from the private sector to the public sector? I will leave that for another discussion, Mustafa, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you, and you are welcome. So let's move to the other challenge. I believe we almost covered the other challenge. How are government and corporate strategies affected in the post-COVID-19? Dr. Ricardo told us it's ambiguity. We don't know what will happen in a month. We don't know when will the pandemic finish. So what will be our situation afterwards? I have a hunch that if we are good now during the pandemic, maybe it's more likely that we will be good after the pandemic. This does not mean if we are still suffering in the pandemic that it's all black after that. No, we are here to discuss, to think together, and maybe to come to certain answers. Even if we are suffering today, what can we do to have a better tomorrow with respect to our strategy? So, would you like to go first on this, Antonio?
Well, it's just I think if we would have an answer, that would be easy. If you look back, the last crisis was the financial crisis, 2007, 2008. Some amazing companies were born during that period. Airbnb, Uber. So there are opportunities out there. There are. If you're sitting in your office, you probably will not find them. If, like you say, Saadi, you're looking at the news all the time, you will not find them. So I think that both governments and private institutions look at the next big thing, what's going to come, and probably it's around environmental sustainability, climate change. Maybe it's an opportunity for doing business differently. So I think it requires that courage that we, like Ricardo was saying, was discussing prior to the COVID in the World Economic Forum, but companies were taking a very modest approach to it. And I think the future can be there. The future is creating that more sustainable approach to business. You know, leadership has been under attack, under criticized because of things that we see around the world about selfishness, about lying, about disrespectful relationships. So I think leadership has never been so undermined and in the black spot. So I think it's an opportunity also come with new methods of leaderships and partnerships and PPPs and looking for the better impact into not just the shareholders, but the society as a whole. So I think I've never seen an opportunity bigger to transform leadership, business, public sector than today. But back again to that leadership that we're talking about. We need those leaders. And today leadership is not like in the past where there's one guy at the top and it's a bit like the army, very hierarchical. Today, I think leadership is about co-creation, co-leadership. So building those very autonomous, free groups with very flat structures, that's the new leadership for me as well. We need to find out how that works, but I think leadership will transform itself as well. So beyond all the bad, I think we're a unique opportunity to turn to hopefully design the world that we wanted to be and that we've seen going down since the last crisis. And I think that would be a great movement to create together.
Thank you, Antonio. Dr. Sheerah, I'd like you just to give me one example about an opportunity that you've seen in the areas you work with that came out because of COVID-19. Okay, let's look a little bit at the filled part of the glass. Antonio always gives us hope, huh?
Okay, so the whole idea is to look into what available tools and resources you have and how to turn them into success tools or winning tools that would really give you the right results or exceed the results that you were planning in the first place. For example, events. Events in Saudi Arabia started in 2019 in a very successful way in Riyadh, and all the Gulf region also, all the regionally, were known with all the attractiveness and the projects and the people were engaged, the small businesses that were opened. In 2020, just to keep the momentum, we turn this upside down to make it virtual. So we encourage every person in his home to participate in virtual events with the hobbies and skills that they may have within their families to participate in certain events and achieving and realizing the same results we were aiming to achieve, which basically making people happy and diversify their way of enjoying and having vibrant life in their cities. So that went out very well across the city and across many cities in Saudi Arabia. And also that gave us a very good time to rethink our way of doing our infrastructure projects, to prioritize what projects need to be done first and second, and how is going to be prioritized given that we have this limited and restrictions that we have based on the pandemic that happened. So all these things happen really helped the whole country, the government, since I've just joined the public sector in the last 3 or 4 years. Before that, 18 years I was in the private sector. So injecting the public sector with many people coming from the private sector, thinking about how to win. The attitude of winning is the whole thing. When you sit down together around the table thinking about how we could get this done, regardless of what factors that might impact us, this is the spirit that you want to have among the youths. Now, when we said 50 to 60% of our population in the kingdom is from 30 to 40, that is a huge energy among the country to transform the country, to make it more energized, more productive, and make our leaders, our leaders who have a lot of alignment with the youths, to make sure that we are really moving toward this transformation. So the key the key factor here, or the X factor here, is to do whatever it takes to make things happen. Henry Ford, when he went in his garage, he started with a thought and ended up with an engine. He never knows that he couldn't make an engine, so he put all his effort in this engine. He made a lot of trials to come up with the right engine. I'm sure that he was facing a lot of unknowns, I'm sure. But regardless, he did his best to overcome all these obstacles to achieve the end results. Not only by himself. I'm sure that he was consulting, that he was engaging others in his daily work, and eventually you have to keep your eyes always on the goals that you want to achieve by the end of the road. There is always a hope and a light at the end of this tunnel. So don't give up, try, move forward. So we turn the events from physical events to virtual events, and we made a lot of hackathons. People were like happy like hell.
Okay, Dr. Ricardo, I'm gonna start with 2 points that Dr. Sheerah said. He talked about prioritization, and again, he reiterated on the being assertive leader. You have to succeed, and the positivity that Antonio always comes up with. So what are your thoughts on these ideas?
Yeah, no, I think that being assertive today is critical, and you need to be fluid to change direction quickly, to learn from what is happening. Because one question I have, for example, we are talking about when the vaccine will be ready, and this is an absolutely irrelevant discussion. But I have a second question: is what will happen after that? Some habits or some changes we are facing today in our environment, will they stay, or will it go back? I'm saying, in the future, will the events go back to what they used to be? It will be a different model, or it will not go back. People will continue working from home. How will be that model? For example, when this movement, and this, I think, is a very critical. So how organizations and governments can adapt themselves to this changing environment. And this requires being proactive and being positive, because I need to tell you, being negative does not bring you any energy for you to move forward. And it's so easy, for you to open the news. And I was listening to you and just get sad and say, it's over. We cannot do anything. And it's tough. But one thing that I always tell as a volunteer on PMI, Antonio heard this many times, if we here on this group are not able to drive this changing behavior, who else will be? Who else? We have the education, we have the position, we have the influence. So we need to start stimulating people to be more adaptable, because this is the new world that we need to live in. And this is the behavior we need to have if we want really to succeed, because maybe COVID will be over sometime in the future, and maybe something else will happen. We don't know. And many things we do not control. So I think this is the kind of behavior that I try to, I would say, to educate my children, also to educate the people that are starting to have this flexibility to adapt to a different circumstance and take the benefit out of it.
Beautiful, Ricardo. I love what you're talking about. And Sultan, I'd like you to give your point of view, and I believe all the four of us will like you on that.
My point of view on what exactly? So many topics have been discussed.
Let us take the last thread, the being assertive and being positive, okay, and spreading the positivity and trying to make sense out of nonsense, maybe environment, or out of a chaos in the ecosystem. Okay, maybe people need somebody to look up to give them the right North Star.
Okay. Let me share with you a story. I used to be a CEO of a boat building company. And we have our weekly meetings every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Of course, one of the staff members that needs to attend that meeting was our chief mechanical engineer, who was nicknamed Mr. Not Possible, because his first reply to everything is not possible, not possible. At the beginning, I was a bit frustrated with him when I first started, leading that team. But after a couple of years, I would cancel the meetings if he is sick or he cannot attend, because it's that negative, I'm not going to say negative, but that cynicism that will push us to think beyond. Adding, and this is one thing that made the government accelerators very successful, adding opposition to the table. You look at your allies and you bring them on board, but you also look at people who can sabotage your projects, people who can actually act against you, and bring them on the table. And you create a win-win-win situation. And I say win-win-win because that's private, public, and then you have the people. Because the private sector and the public sectors are not the people. And there was the question of, or the discussion of assertiveness. Yes, this and every other challenge that the world have faced is an automatic test to leadership. You know, when they did the satisfaction survey, a couple of countries came top. Singapore, UAE was one of them. But the statistics was what? 72%. No one is 100% satisfied with their government. Every nation expects more. And that's what we are trying to do, right? Intellectually discuss those issues, find solutions, and share our experiences, because knowledge is not static. Knowledge is accumulative. We build on what we've learned before and create something new. I personally believe that we need to start. By the way, talking about agility, I mean, I'm not going to take much of your time. Talking about agility, I was given a job offer a while back to be a director of agility in a government organization. It took them 7 months to process my paperwork. So my first piece of submission was agile recruitment. Life is funny that way, and I honestly think we have an Arabic saying, don't be so tender that you're squeezed, or don't be so stiff that you're broken. لا تكن لينا فتعصر أو صلبا فتكسر. There's always a middle point that can be achieved. And I think the major issue we've seen, honestly, after working with more than, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 people, time. We need to give each other time, not only to think and speak, but also to process what everyone is telling us, because there's a lot. Look, we've never lived in an age where there was this much abundance of information, right? We can get anything. I think I'm not gonna make you guys sound too old, but we all studied geography and we all had to draw maps, right? At one stage or another. Now we don't need to do that anymore. Why the hell did we spend hours of our childhood doing that? It's because no one looked into the future that Google Maps will actually appear. Funny enough, my dad is still a person I know that doesn't use your navigation. He still uses his brain because he knows the shortcut. So on that point, I think, yes, we have learned a lot. And like Dr. Ibraheem also mentioned, this new norm definitely forced us to re-evaluate the value of resources we have. Because we have forgotten that we have good internet in the Middle East. And some countries did not allow VoIP, right? But now we are reutilizing all of those resources to move forward. On that note, I will end, otherwise I'll speak until the morning.
Thank you. I love that each one of our small group tonight is bringing great value. I'm looking forward to hear things back again in the recording after we finish. Now we still have 2 challenges. I'm gonna combine them into one challenge to spend the 10 last minutes on this discussion. Then we'll open the door for questions and answers. Otherwise, I know Antonio will kill me because he says I always exceed the time. This time it is 90 minutes, Antonio. 60 minutes for discussion, 30 minutes for Q&A, okay? So after the 90 minutes, you can kill me. Now, the 2 other challenges, what areas or domains do our organizations need to transform? Which areas or domains we need to change? And what strategy implementation method or framework can help us be alive and even stronger in 2030? I did not put the question in 2021. I put the question in 2030, okay? And I know Sultan will be happy, because very few countries in the world talk about the future. Okay, and UAE, of course, and Saudi Arabia are one of these countries. Now, I would like to start with Antonio. What can you tell us about what domains do we need to change, and is there a method or framework that can help us? One thing, though, before we start, I intentionally set next week's session to be a panel, and its title is Organizational Agility, with our dear friend Dr. Al Zaytoun, also with Suzanne Kupcha, and Isa Al-Ali from UAE. So because I know this is a big topic, I believe this is episode 1, and episode 2 would be continued next week as well. So again, to my question, what domains organizations need to transform, and what methods or framework can help us be stronger in 2030?
Let me start with the first one. I think that's where I like to comment. More than which functions we need to transform, which competencies do we need to build? I think for me, that's the key question. And for me, there is clearly the competency of the, I call it generalist. And let me explain you what I mean. So far, for the last 40, 50 years, if you didn't specialize in one domain, marketing, finance, sales, you would not progress in your career as fast as if you choose to do project management or being a generalist, knowing a bit of different things. And that has been the trend, and we've all suffered that. People working in project management, they say, yeah, but in which career path do you fit? You don't fit in any career path. So that was the reality in the old world. I call it the world driven by efficiency. That was great because we needed expertise like Taylor and Ford, kind of set the tone for the 40, 50 years to come. But I think the great news, and I'm being positive again now, is that was reality in the past. Today we're living in what I call the world driven by change. And in a world driven by change, you need generalists. You need people who understand and can drive teams transversal with different skills, that they can get together and drive a project or a change initiative or a digital transformation or an M&A or a PPP project together with the government. So that's where I think companies will need to invest. I'm not talking too much about investing on project managers. I see the role of the project manager evolving as well into becoming more implementation specialists, or I call it professionals. End to end, these people need to understand innovation. Remember, in project management, we don't care about innovation. It happens before us, and we don't care and we don't learn. But I think we need to be engaged in that phase too. We need to understand design thinking. We need to design prototyping, facilitating ideas both in the public sector and in the private. So I think we need to expand a bit on that area. We need to know not just the PM bulk, but we need to understand agile product development. We need to expand on those different domains to be a great generalist and implementation. And the last part, I think we need people who take accountability on the benefits delivered. So we need to be owners of the impact, on the benefits, the value, revenues. Not, we don't care about innovation, we don't care about the benefits. That's not my plan. I need to create a plan with deliverables and milestones. That's all what I need to do. No, I think the future is about building people that care and build plans about impact, benefits. We don't care so much about deliverables and milestones anymore. So I think if we evolve, if we develop ourselves, if project leaders learn agile concepts, design thinking, product develop, financial and value creation, that's where companies will need to be lots of resources. And according to my research, about 5% of resources today in organizations have that profile, and they need to change. So there's 90% of the people that need to learn the basics because they've been trained forever to be an expert in something. So that's a massive shift in organizations' competencies. And I think here we are there to help them. We are here to help them and guide them in that process. So I think that's trying to answer also the framework. I think the framework will be the building the right competencies, end-to-end implementation specialists for the private, for the public sector. And I think that's where I see already some companies investing. So that's where I think, again, from a positive angle, generalist is the future, and now is our time to shine. But we need to show value and impact, not deliverables and milestones.
Very beautiful. One thing, Antonio, when I introduced you again, I forgot to say that you are co-founder for Strategy Implementation Institute, and you established the Strategy Implementation Professional certification with APMG. I'm happy that I learned and got this certification. It taps into many of the, it gives some answers to many of the challenges we were all talking about. And by the way, before I forget, you used to offer a 50% discount for the first batch. Is this extended in August?
Is this? Yeah, this is extended in August. But to be honest, Saadi, for me, what's interesting is providing tools and concepts that people can use to become better, become specialists in implementation. And I know Ricardo has done that with Beeline. So we are not just unique. Beeline has just opened the door for people to paying attention of how they can develop and build those transformation skills. So I'm just building up and putting, of course, my thinking behind with Robin. But my goal is that more and more training companies and associations invest in that space so that we can become better. Mine is just a very small initiative, hopefully become big, but the purpose is bigger, is big in creating people with impact for a social cause or for a revenue cause. So yes, I'm very happy with the way things are going with the Strategy Implementation Institute, but the purpose is bigger, and I need to thank Ricardo for all the massive amount of work they've been doing the past 4 years through Beeline to opening so many new channels and creating the awareness that was not there. It didn't exist.
Thank you. Ricardo, your turn, please. Tell us. I know you have lots of things to share, and we'd love to learn and listen and have some awareness about the frameworks, the methods, competencies or domains. Okay, I know you and Antonio, one of you starts the sentence, the other one finishes it.
Yeah, but first, thanks, Antonio, for the kind words on Brightline. But I want to take the challenge number 4, because I have a strong concern when we talk about methods and this. Because sometimes we want to fool ourselves, thinking that, okay, let's find a framework, and now this solve our problems. You know, it's like thinking that life has a user manual, you know, instructions guide. It's not like that. We would love to have more control over things, but let me tell you, there is no framework that will solve the complexity of what is to run a business in this changing environment. So one thing that I'm struggling is that this endless discussion about Agile and PMBOK and whatever. Let me tell you, let's not fool ourselves. You can implement Agile, and Dr. Sultan just used it in an example. He say you can say, okay, we want to implement an Agile method, but with a bureaucratic environment, things do not move the way you want. It's a far more complex. Agility is one thing. The method is another thing. So we need to understand that to be agile, it doesn't mean that you are applying agile method and then you became agile automatically. It would be wonderful if this was the reality. So for me, the biggest framework, and then I go back to everything we discussed today, is around how we can change the cultural behavior of people, to understand and to be more willing to accept that change is part of the game. Change is not something that you should avoid. You know, you need to be prepared and embrace change, because this is the only way you can evolve. So you need to be smart, nimble, fast, agile, to adapt your organization, to adapt your country to different circumstances. This is what will build a more resilient society. So this, for me, if I would say the framework that we need is a human framework, you know, and where people start trying to control less and explore a little bit more. So this is my belief, and this is why we create the People Manifesto, the guiding principles, and everything we did. For example, the Coursera course we released it 2 years ago. It's about this kind of behavior, the attitude of looking. Many organizations fail because they are so individualistic that they forget to look what is happening outside. For example, I spoke many times in many events for startups, and the biggest failure that every single startup has is they love so much their idea that they become blindfolded of what is going in the market. And suddenly when they open their eyes, it's a different world. It's an absolutely different. So we need to be more adaptive and embrace and think that things are far more complex. And the changes we are facing today, I saw one of the comments in the chat here. One of the biggest changes we are seeing and we will see in the next months, it's a cultural change. People learning to work from home, leaders learning to manage from home, leaders, you know, how to get things happening in a completely different environment. So this is a massive cultural shift that we're facing. So this is what would be my framework for the future.
So Dr. Sheerah, if you have a new startup to make a remote control for the leaders to manage their people from home, you'll be a very rich person, because those who follow this type of management and control, I feel they will become like the cat when you cut their whiskers. Okay, they will have to manage and to lead without control, which is against what we were taught in the business school and against what we were taught in the control part of even the PIM book. Okay, so what are your 2 cents on this idea?
I started my career as a product design engineer. So product development was my DNA back then in late 90s, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. And then I started working on project management, program management, portfolio management. The reason why I'm saying that is that one specific domain that you need to focus on is the culture itself. I believe that every organization is unique in culture. You cannot fit all with one size. You can give them principles, you can show them the tools, you can show them the way, but again, it depends on how they're going to work together. And I would quote what Jack Ma just said: it's easy for stupid people to work together, but it's difficult to make smart people work together. Every organization wants to hire smart people. So, and that's why you have many interviews, and that's why you have very lengthy job descriptions, useless job descriptions, and a lot of back and forth discussions. At the end, you need smart people. So the good thing is that you have all the ingredients. You need to make a good dish so that it could be eatable by everyone, and it could you could achieve the results you want. So I applied the concept of product development into the project management. So I mixed them together as a blender. Since the days I've managed projects in the defense, security, infrastructure, PPP, all of the above. And I found it successful because basically it's about experimentation, innovation, making the culture always a living culture. And I recently, I'm happy to share this with you and all of the respected audience, I've built a new concept called the power of 7 R's. The power of 7 R's is basically putting the whole ideas on the whole projects on the same picture using what we call it reasons, resources, risks, requirements, roles and responsibilities, results. If you have all these things embedded into one page and you explain them very well and make them aligned with every single resource you have, I think you would have a better results or better chance to achieve the results that you aim to achieve. And again, and I'm going to stress on this, when we talk about strategy, when we talk about scope of work, when we talk about project, when we talk about tools, we are talking about things that has no spirit and they have no the IQ that human have. People evolves, people learn, people are way better now compared to artificial intelligence. Thanks God. Maybe later on you might have some competition, but not now. So in order to make this happen, we need to focus on the culture. We need to be experimenting. We need to experiment most often in our organization. And we need to make sure not to give our lives to an external, I would say, advisor or consultant who has no idea. The advisor, basically, he's going to connect the dots that the people has in the organization and make them meaningful. So culture, experimentation, continuous improvement and evolving, and at the end, keep your eyes on the results all the time. Whether you want to do this remotely, through virtual meetings or through emails, I think you could use whatever tools possible to survive these islands, like the movie Castaway. He used every possible tools he has to survive the land he was in, to get into a plane and get back to the country. If you were drowning, you would look into every solution and you will use every tools differently. You will never use the tools the same way that they're supposed to be used. Why? Because you want to use the tool to survive. You want to use the tool to improve. Again, without your people, your assets, your heart, you cannot evolve, you cannot improve, you cannot grow. Always capitalize on them, trust into them, align with them, make all these work agile, as the gentleman just said, but always keep in mind culture, experimentation, continuous innovation and improvement. These three. And the seven power of R's.
You're gonna have to send that to for us, or a link to review it as well, please, later on.
Absolutely. I'm about to finish it.
Okay. Now, having said that, last but not least, Sultan, I'd like you to finish this session with you with 2 minutes so that we can take some questions. But tonight, I'm gonna use a different method. Instead of me looking at the questions and selecting some of them because we cannot answer all, I'd like each one of you to select 1 or 2 questions and select the question you like and answer it, okay, when we start to answer the questions. Everybody happy with this way? Ricardo, Antonio, Dr. Sheerah, Sultan? Good.
Yes.
Did you just shift the responsibility to us instead of you?
Of course. Okay, I'm
okay. Okay. Clear.
You are too good not to utilize you. Okay, it's an opportunity.
But before we move forward, I honestly want to thank all of you. Ricardo, you talked about uncertainty in a way that helped me adjust my thoughts about it, because experts always talk about uncertainties, but experts are only historians, fancy historians, who come on TV and speak about the past. But no one has future foresighting. No one saw this coming. As you said, why have we been working on future foresighting for the past 2 years and no one, except Bill Gates, I guess, who is claimed to be the one who created this? Antonio, you talked about results. I have to disagree with you. Milestones don't matter. Yes, I agree with you. But results do matter. If you assemble a team, you assemble them for a purpose, they solve an issue. I've worked with the team, and I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but I'll send you a link to my TEDx talk, and you can actually listen to how that team made a huge difference because of the amount of results that usually would have taken years, but only took 100 days because the right group of people came together. Dr. Ibraheem, I don't know if you are running away from this discussion because you turned your camera off, but دكتور صراحة أول شيء فرصة سعيدة. Secondly, I have to say, I have a couple of comments here, but the 7 hours is something I would really like to investigate with you. Now I'm ready for questions.
Okay, I'd like to add a note because many of you spoke about benefits, and there is a standard, a book about benefit managing benefits by an author called Stephen Jenner, and it has a certification with APMG. So I'm happy that I connected with him, and he will be one of our speakers to talk about managing benefits. He's not just an author, he's a consultant on managing benefits. And one of his success stories was in UAE about managing benefits. So he will be one of our future speakers in the calendar.
That's definitely a person I would like to meet.
Yeah. So, would you like to start? Dr. Sheerah, you ran away, then you come back.
Yes, for the second, just give me a second.
Okay. So, Ricardo, Dr. Ricardo, can you select a question, please, and answer it?
Yeah, no, I already selected 2 here, so I will try to be quick here. So there is one question from Wael. Can we all nearly working as a freelancer basis without any corporate organization? And my answer to you is a post that I did recently on LinkedIn talking about that. And the title is the end of the employment as we know. And look, I don't have a clear answer, but I think that we are facing a big shift on the way employment is perceived. Because technology today, for example, we saw in the US, the government saying, if you are studying online, you don't need a visa. I'm just saying in a very pragmatic way. And what is happening today, it's if people work remotely, why do they need to have a working visa or a visa permit? How the laws around employment will work. So I think that we need to be prepared to see a very relevant change on the way employment is perceived. Because I think that with this, for example, look today, we are in different parts of the world working together. So and I think this will be, I'm not saying for all work, but I think maybe not freelancer, but I think that we'll have a new kind of social contract around job, okay, that we need to be prepared. And the second one is a very tough one, okay, from Mudaza. Thanks for the great discussion. However, the reality is recession, furloughs, and business going down. How can we expect positivity and optimism? Business reality is so much different. My second question is how people can be made more adaptable to uncertain times. They just cannot learn new skills every time. And look, Mudassar, I know how you feel, because I feel the same. Sometimes I wake up and I'm afraid and I don't know what's happening. But let me tell you, we need to understand that we are bigger than that, that we are able, if we dedicate, if we reinvent ourselves, we can come out far more strong. And my biggest advice that I would provide to you, if I could share one, is that you should never, ever stop learning. You should never, ever in your whole life feel that you are good enough to not need to learn. And this is a big mistake, because when things are good, what happened? Everybody relax. And when the waters become turbulent, then you don't know how to swim. So it's something, and I just want to tell you, in my whole life, I spend around 10% of my time to study, to learn, and to learn new things, and not to learn what I know, just to reinforce, but to learn and to explore, because in these times, you know, it will help you a lot to find ways of moving forward. So this would be my advice for you, okay? And thanks for the question. So back to you, Dr. Saad.
Thank you very much. You reminded me of an incident. Professor Rodney Turner, he's a very famous guy. He was for 25 years the chief editor for the Elsevier International Journal of Project Management, and wrote many books. We learned a lot from him. He pushed project management up, and he retired, I think, 2 years back. He retired from teaching and retired from editing the journal, and he lives in London. So what does he do? He joins a university, and he's studying now a master's in psychology. Okay, you never stop learning. Okay, how can you? We are knowledge workers. Okay. We don't get a living or build a company or build a country with our physical muscles. It's with our brains and skills and attributes and character and collaboration and compassion all together that we can move on together on doing something positive. So I totally agree on this. Now, Dr. Sheerah, can you tell us, please, your 2 questions? Did you select 2 questions?
The first one is from Mohammad Bukhari.
Okay.
He asked me the following question. As you know, I don't know, we as Saudis and UAEs are on the same boat, so we're talking the same language. So he just said, you know, UAE has introduced their new strategy as a response to tackle the aftermath of COVID-19 crisis. Will KSA do the same? Are they going to reprioritize the Vision 2030 strategy and possibly introduce a new vision? Okay, first of all, let me tell you one thing, Mohammed. It's a very good question. There is no such thing called a new vision. There is always things called new ways to achieve your vision. So Saudi Arabia has more than 13 Vision 2030 programs. They all have certain initiatives with billions of Saudi riyals in terms of budgets, and a lot of people who better than me managing the portfolio of those initiatives, making sure that
we lost the signal again.
Yeah, I think so.
We are losing the signal.
I mean, the prosperity of the country, the realization of the good results, that all going to be achieved eventually. But you can go this way, or you can go that way, or you can go this way. So how you're going to achieve that is how every program is evolving to know the right way to achieve that. So I think it is not introducing a new strategy, it's introducing new ways to achieve the long-term vision for our long-term strategy. And I think we have to be resilient enough I think we have to be strong enough, and we have awareness and self-awareness and adapting the new methodologies to make sure that we achieve this. So this is the answer to this question from Mohammed Bukhari. I hope I answered this question. So I don't think that we are in comparison with every country is different because every country has its own factors. The kingdom, when you talk about Riyadh, Jeddah, Dammam, we have a very spiral city spreading around the very sophisticated geographical region. So we're talking about different ideas, different projects. We might delay some of the projects and we might go ahead with other projects. Depends on the situation. This is how resilient and how flexible you are in achieving the goals you want to achieve. I think I haven't seen another question that addressed to me directly. Yeah, someone asked me about the 7 R's. Why the reason I came up with the 7 R's and we came up with the 7 R's while I'm working and serving for the government is basically everyone, whenever we speak about implementing or executing certain projects, we always lose bits and pieces of these projects and those initiatives. How we could bring them all together on the same picture and make them all make sense to everyone is by knowing why and how and who and where and when and how we're going to do this. As it's similar to Palladium, or similar to the vision strategy people when they put all these things together. So it's initiative canvas. So where you see the reasons, where you see the requirements, when you see the resources you can have the schedule, you can have the people, you can have the money, you can have everything. So that would give us a sense of how to make decisions on the spot every time we want to review any of those strategic projects, whether those PPPs projects, infrastructure projects, whether those projects are significant to the country, we put them all on the same screen. And on the same screen also we put also the successes, the threats, the opportunities, the situation we have on these projects, so that we can keep moving forward using a very summarized sheet for the 7 R's. Now the power of 7 R's, when I say the power of 7 R's, is how to be resilient enough and how to be tough enough and assertive enough to change course to make sure that you are really going to end up with the results you want to end up with. Because
Dr. Sheerah, you sold it. You sold me. You're gonna be a speaker on the 7R with us. Okay, I don't know where I would fit it, but I will find a way.
So the whole idea,
everybody now wants to have an in-depth idea on the 7R. Whenever you're ready.
In Arabic, I made them the 7 meme, the 7 meme. I made them also in Arabic. So anyway, it's like a strategy implementation map. It's a new way of doing this. It's not the typical way or traditional way, but the innovative way to make to enable the decision maker to make decisions. And at the same time, you could get rid of all the hassle or get rid of the project as a whole, if it's not going to really add value to what you're supposed to add.
A framework that's going to work for the next couple of weeks, months, maybe years, inshallah.
A framework that is already adapted, but you just want to put the bits and pieces together and make them make sense to everyone to be used. And of course, you might get credit for that.
I don't know. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Okay. Antonio, your questions.
My questions, and I see we're running out of time. You see, Saadi, we never finish on time.
No, we still have 5 minutes. Five very long minutes.
Antonio, what do you have to do after this? Just chill, man.
No, I enjoy it. I know I took 2 hours because I know Saadi.
You see, Antonio, you made a Lebanese guy laugh tonight. Okay, you should sleep happy. Okay,
that's good. I want to briefly comment on the point, Ricardo, on continuous learning. I think we need to see ourselves. That's what I tell my students as an iPhone. iPhone lasts 1 year and then they have a new version. So we need to find what's their new version every year. What's the new features that we learn? So that's how you make yourself employable or independent or working for the government. So think about yourself as an iPhone, and then every year you need to upgrade. Sometimes it's the software, sometimes it's something else. But that's how we keep updated till the end. I took 2 questions here. There were a lot of questions. One from Mohammad Gassi. I have a question to the panel. How to do the balance between strategy review and continue implementation of current ones? What are the triggers? How to monitor and when to say stop and switch? This is, I think, the core question. If we would have an answer, then we would not be here. It's a lot about testing. We talked about that before. It's about the agility. You need to have some core areas where you're focusing, but continually testing new ideas constantly. So there needs time for stepping back and looking at where you're going and where the competition, the environment, the ecosystem, are you part one or not? So, but finding that balance between trying, testing, and stopping. If you don't stop, you cannot start new things. So I think we always talk about the stop list. It's something that leaders should have. We need to stop all the things in order to start new things. It has to be very, very important topic to be discussed into the executive team. What are we stopping today? What are we starting today? And how are we evolving into the future? So it's one of the most difficult parts is knowing what to stop, knowing what to start, knowing when to start it. And I think that's where the future of leadership and strategy lies. It's not all numbers. Unfortunately, machine will not tell you. There is a lot of gut feeling and listening and talking to your customers and potential. So these kind of soft things you don't get in your dashboards or balance scorecards. So it's a mix of data and gut feeling and listening to your customers and potential. The second question I found very interesting. Hadi Abdel Ramin, is the project manager role referring to the standards which were set by PMI and others fit the new world and norms? Will the relevant skills still fit with the future based on data prediction and data transformation? Hadi, according to Garden, 80% of the current work and tasks performed by project managers, project management, will disappear, will be disrupted by artificial intelligence. We have not talked enough, and I say that in every conference, about the disruption that artificial intelligence will have in projects and project management. We always talk about pharma, retail, education, but when will we have a deep analysis on what are the implications of all these disruptions in our world? And I think it's again an opportunity, because if 4 days out of 5 in 5 to 10 years will disappear, that gives amazing opportunity for us to develop into more strategic roles like we were talking before, that end-to-end, that focus on value, impact, results. That's where we need to move fast. Otherwise, we'll be disrupted for sure. Otherwise, the profession will not survive. That's my call for action here.
Thank you, Antonio. Beautiful. I like your perspectives. Now, Isa, did you select 2 questions, please? Sorry, Sultan. Excuse me.
I was thinking, who do we have an Isa?
Okay, no, Sultan, sorry.
And I have a weird system of taking notes, you know. So I take notes on papers, and then yellow posted and orange posted and red posted for different purposes. Antonio, you remember I said some people are going to hate me by the end of this panel? I did choose, actually. I have 3 questions, and I was looking at the 4th one. But before that, I wanted to answer Antonio to say, please stop talking about AI. We have not managed or mastered human intelligence yet. So let's do that before we go into artificial intelligence, because we are still stupid enough to do the same mistakes over and over again. We don't want our machines to be smarter than us, okay? So I have a white paper written for that. I was going to submit it to Davos this year, but I would love to share it with you before It's called Why AI is a Lie. I have 3 questions. If no, as I said, hate me, love me. I'll be in your mind or in your heart. I have 3 questions. One is very brief, one is a bit medium, one is long. Amro Ahmed, hi, why am I not in the chat room? I don't know, Amro. Shakib Larbi, how we can change our behavior? That's a very good question. What's the old saying? Mind what you think, it will become a habit, صح? Eventually. What you say, etc., etc. So just look at what you're doing every day, because that is your behavior. If you are waking up every day in the morning, that's a behavior. If you're not, if you're waking up only in the evening, that's a behavior. If you smile, a behavior. If you say thank you, a behavior. So how can we change our behavior? We need to actually first catch ourselves and identify what behavior we want to change. Once you know what behavior you want to change, I had multiple experiences with people. One of them was very critical because it was personal, on saying thank you and please. And I made it very strict and crucial with my kids that thank you and please, dealing with everyone, is a behavior and a norm and something, it's a red line that you cannot cross. The most interesting question I looked at was Ahmed al-Shiheri. Why we have many failure projects while we have so many certified people, certified project management leading those projects? And that is a very interesting question. Why do we, and by the way, again, I'm going to go back to one note that other than deliverables, I think it was, I need to pay credit where credit is due. Mustafa, you talked about agile strategy in the making. And then you talked about how new project management is different, right? It's no longer the same. And Antonio, you talked about design thinking. You talked about innovation. And you talked about future foresighting. One thing you guys didn't talk about is coaching. And I think this is the answer to the question. Ahmed, we have failed projects because project managers are not coaching the teams. They are spending more time micromanaging, forgetting that if they actually invest more time in the people rather than the task, they will get more done. And that's the biggest problem we're facing in this day and age, selfishness. All of you guys have knowledge. All of you guys came tonight to share that knowledge. A lot of very intellectual people do not have this basic attribute to be able to share. And beyond that, it's to educate. I can talk too much, by the way, so someone needs to stop me.
Okay. Regarding to coaching, I'm happy again. Two of our presenters who will be speaking later on within the series are GACA project managers. One built one of the largest refineries, and the other one built one of the largest airports and stadiums and whatnot. And if you look at their topics, the topics they chose, going back to the basics and working with the people, and I know their style in person, it's all about coaching. I believe it's not enough to be considered effective project manager by getting a certification, any certification. You need to have skills and experience, but for you to be able to make decisions, you need to live with somebody, and he will give you through his attributes, through his behavior, through his simplification, okay, a lot of the tacit knowledge on how to make decisions, how to manage things when things go south, as they say, okay? It's not about mere certification, no. Certification is important to me. It tells people that we know the same terminology, okay? So if somebody says WBS, the other person understands what WBS is. But to be able to manage a real project and real people, Ricardo, what do you think? Maybe you are muted?
No, I just muted. No, I agree completely. I think that we are now living in a new paradigm. Again, we need to revisit. For example, most of my work in the past was in this large capital projects, and the reality today must be far more flexible and dynamic because things are changing very fast. So it's always a big challenge. But one thing I'm really, for me, it's an amazing, Dr. Saad, what you are doing here today. So I was just reflecting and listening because it's to put these people together to share with a good intention. This is what really matters now, really matter. And this is a great project management example for all of us.
Thank you very much. So, I'm not going to go for the full 2 hours, Antonio, although you gave your approval. Okay, I believe it's time to close. So I would like to ask each one of you kindly to provide your closing idea or note or concept. Okay, and let's start with Dr. Sheerah.
Okay, I'm really delighted and honored to be among those great panelists. It was a very interesting night, and again, I trust that going back to the tragedy that happened in Lebanon, they're going to get back on their feet, overcoming this issue, and together they're going to rise. I think the people will do their best, and our hearts and feelings again is going to go out for the families over there. Beside that, I think we keep learning and learning. We never stop learning. Things are dynamics, not static. We cannot do things by our own. We have to do them in groups. We have to do them in teams. Life will never be the same as we know. It's going to change. We have to be ready for that change together. Together we are stronger. We are stronger, yes.
Yes, okay. So, Sultan, would you like to give us your last comment?
I would be honored if I can be the last one, if you don't mind.
Okay, Antonio.
Well, I agree with the reflection that these kind of events are the way forward. It's just a pleasure even for us, I think, to listen to each other, to listen to Sultan challenging my thoughts, and I welcome that very much. Ibraheem, Ricardo, it is how we make the future together. So I want to thank you.
So you do not hate Sultan for that, huh?
No,
I told you, Sultan, we will all like you. I love you.
No, we know. It's part of the debate, and I think part of getting better. Maybe I don't agree, but this is the way we need to work together. And this is how we make better things for the future. Thank you. And I think it's just the power of us 5 here on the call, plus the 260 people listening and exchanging, this is co-creation. This is the future. This is how we can remain positive. One comment was made, if you're negative or see just all dark, and we will not come out of this. So we need to have that spirit where, although it doesn't look good, we need to keep believing. We need to have a purpose. We need to find that project that will generate ambitions and happiness and a perspective, a light at the end of the future. So a pleasure being here with all of you. Saadi, thank you very much for what you're doing. You've become, a star in the night. And yeah, now is the night here to put us together and putting all this effort, all just pro bono. We're here not to sell anything, just to provide ideas for people and being open later to contact and help to do better things together. So thank you. It was a pleasure again. We ran out of time again, but I don't mind.
You see, being agile, you put time aside a little bit, huh? Okay. Focus on the benefit. Thank you very much, Antonio. Ricardo.
Yeah, look, first, I feel honored to have the chance to be in this panel. For me, it's an excellent opportunity, and also it's amazing to see when people are introducing themselves. So people from all over the world. So for me, I think it's a great. But Dr. Saadi, I want just to say a message to you, because okay. I know how you feel with everything that happened 1 week ago, and you stood strong, and you are here doing this and making this happening today. 1 week after that, I know that you probably had so many things to think about, people around you that are suffering, and you decided to donate your time to dedicate to make this happen and to allow us. So I will never forget that, okay? So you can count on me anytime you need, and I want to wish you all the best to the people in Lebanon, okay? And let's stop thinking about individuals. Let's think on the collective, because we are far more stronger on that, okay? Thank you very much one more time for having me.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. You see, Wednesday nights keep me going on, okay? We had a discussion on email, all of us together, that because of the event, we should postpone. When something very bad happens, many of us will take some time to comprehend what's going on. In the first hours or first day, you are sort of lost. Because of your comments, we've discussed to delay it 1 week. Then I thank you for that, because back then, if I stayed on the same, I could not have done it, because there are real tragedies. But again, I believe what keeps us going on is to be together. We are stronger together. And to me, sharing knowledge and learning from authorities like you, it's my passion. Okay, I tell my wife, you see, Ricardo, Antonio, we can marry more than one woman. Okay, I tell my wife, the other woman is the knowledge, is the sharing. Okay, this is not my career, it's my hobby. It what makes me stand, okay, and have the power to continue and to meet nice, interesting people like you who challenge always our brains and thinking. So I thank each one of you from my heart. And last but not least, Sultan, I'm very happy that last minute you joined us. Okay, I believe I'm really happy. I love the contributions and the way
it's beyond last minute.
Yeah,
it's my pleasure. But if you don't mind, I want to remove the headset and go on speaker. My ear.
We are not hearing you.
Okay, 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. First of all, I would like to thank my wife who allowed me to do this interview in such a late time. And
let us all thank our wives, please. Okay?
Yeah.
It's safer this way. Okay.
Yes.
Thank our wives. Yeah. Okay.
And unfortunately, she could not join this discussion, but she would have been a major contributor because she inspired me in so many different ways in agile governance, how to turn things to the better. That's the entire thing about government. Governments are supposed to make life easier for people, right? She has been doing this for so long, and I respect her for that, and she taught me how to do that as well. And I think we are also contributing in one way or another on how to do that. So every great man has a great woman behind him who's forcing him to stay at work for so late, getting stuff done.
Or maybe next to him. In Lebanon, behind him does not work. Next to him. Next to him, he's lucky if she's not in front of him.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I don't know. I never asked. But I'm still recording, so thank God I can edit this stuff. Thank you guys. Amazing evening. And I'm telling you, moving forward, it's this sharing of different opinions. It's this discussion. It's this dialogue. I did have my first note on the paper talking about Lebanon, but all of you guys talked about it, so I thought let me stop recording. Every one of you guys said something nice about Lebanon, so I thought I cannot contribute more. But I just remembered that some of my best summers were spent in Lebanon. And unlike other people who spend them on the beaches or in the mountains, I enjoyed Lebanon city. I enjoyed Lebanon in the morning. Early morning, the people selling books on the side of the road. The falafel from a shop called Falafel Sahyun. The Zionist falafel. Lebanon has seen so much strategies. I didn't want to say I feel sorry for them because I wanted to say I know they are going to get through this because they've been through wars over and over again. Because it used to be called the Paris of the Middle East. And if you remember what happened to Paris during the Nazi invasion, that's the reason Lebanon is called the Paris of the Middle East. Survived. Because Hitler wanted to melt down the Eiffel Tower to build tanks. And he failed. And so many people wanted to destroy Lebanon, and they failed. Even natural causes failed. So, yes, of course, our thoughts and loves go, but I'm telling you guys, don't worry about Lebanon. She can take care of herself.
Thank you very much. I'm really touched. There is a saying in Arabic, رُبَّ أَخٍ لَكَ لَمْ تَلِدْهُ أُمُّكَ. You might have a brother but he's not from your mother, okay?
My brother from another mother.
Yes. And not only me, the Lebanese people, and I focus people, okay? We feel we have the world as our brother. And we are very happy with this. And this keeps us going on. And inshallah, the nightmare will be over soon. In this, I would like to thank everybody. It has been really a pleasure of meeting minds, listening to you, talking to you, but also I feel the nice feelings, the compassion. Tonight, you did not touch my brain alone. You touched all my heart. And for this, I really thank you. And with this, I'm sorry that we need to finish. Okay, because we are going to exceed the 2 hours by Antonio, then I don't know what he will do to me. I can run for hours with you guys without feeling the time, because again, I believe we learn from each other, the baby steps, the notes, each one build on the other person's idea or concept. Each one sees something working in one way in a country, and collectively, inshallah, we all become better. Thank you, and have a very nice afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.